So some things I say that might hurt somebody's feelings, I'm sorry, but this is the truth, and I'm going to let it be the truth. Okay?
Ricky Morton really changed the game in WWE with his style of playing Ricky Morton. The way he took such brutal beatings and kept going made him a true pioneer. It was something that drew fans in because they saw this guy who just wouldn't give up. Who else could have pulled it off better than Morton? He made fans connect with the struggle in a way no one had before. Ricky Morton became the face of what we now call the face in peril role in tag team wrestling. It was this brilliant style where he would take a brutal beating, making the audience feel for him, only to build up that moment when he finally made the hot tag to his partner. This style became so iconic that wrestlers and fans started calling it playing Ricky Morton. And honestly, who else could have done it like him? He had this unique ability to turn pain into drama, making every match a roller coaster of emotion. One of the biggest reasons Morton became so famous was his epic rivalries, especially the one with the Midnight Express. This was no ordinary feud. It's considered one of the greatest tag team rivalries in wrestling history. The Rock and Roll Express clashed with the Midnight Express, which originally featured Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton, later joined by Stan Lane. And let's not forget the wild card in the mix, their manager Jim Cornette, who added fuel to the fire. Their battles were legendary and stretched across several promotions, but their time in Midsouth Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions really cemented their place in wrestling history. But it wasn't just the Midnight Express that kept Ricky busy in the ring. The Rock and Roll Express also had their hands full with the Four Horsemen, some of the most iconic wrestlers ever: Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard. These rivalries helped the Rock and Roll Express shine even brighter, making them top stars in the NWA and WCW. The chemistry in those matches, the back-and-forth drama, the stakes, it was everything fans wanted and more. Outside the ring, though, Ricky Morton wasn't always in the headlines for his wrestling. He ran into some serious personal trouble, particularly with legal issues over unpaid child support. He was ordered to pay a large amount in back payments based on a higher income he had earned earlier in his career. But as his earnings changed over time, he fell behind. It was a tough chapter in his life, but through it all, Morton remained one of the most respected figures in wrestling history. It makes total sense that he's so respected, considering his performances were truly one of a kind. His journey into wrestling started early, and it wasn't by accident. Trained by his father, Paul, and the seasoned veteran Ken Lucas, Morton had all the right guidance from the beginning. He made his debut in 1977 against Ken Wayne, kicking off a career that would quickly make him one of the most beloved and influential wrestlers in the business. He initially wrestled for the Continental Wrestling Association in Memphis, Tennessee, and during these early years, he often teamed up with Lucas or Eddie Gilbert. Morton's athletic ability, his sharp looks, and that signature spiky blonde mullet quickly caught the attention of fans, particularly the female crowd. And it wasn't long before he was dubbed a teen idol. His popularity grew fast, and it was clear he was someone who could truly captivate an audience. By early 1983, the promoters Jerry Jarrett and Jerry Lawler saw an opportunity to take Morton's popularity to the next level. They paired him with Robert Gibson, and together they formed one of the most iconic tag teams in history, the Rock and Roll Express. Their goal was to replicate the success of another popular tag team, the Fabulous Ones, and they did just that. The Rock and Roll Express quickly became fan favorites, especially in the South, where they captured the Mid-South Tag Team Championship 3 times. But they didn't just win titles. They created a storyline that would be remembered for generations. They found themselves in a fierce and heated rivalry with the Midnight Express, particularly the duo of Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey. This feud wasn't just about titles. It was about pride, respect, and establishing which team truly ruled the ring. Morton's role as the face in peril was key to his tag team success. With his smaller frame and charisma, he took most of the punishment in matches, building sympathy from fans before tagging in Robert Gibson for the comeback. This dynamic, involving Morton enduring humiliating injuries and beatings, became a hallmark of their matches and led to the term, playing Ricky Morton. But Morton's career wasn't just defined by his work with the Rock and Roll Express. In 1984, he found himself involved in a major storyline with none other than Randy Savage. The angle saw Savage pile-drive Morton through a ringside table, a brutal moment that shocked fans. It was just one example of how Morton could take punishment and turn it into something memorable that kept the audience on the edge of their seats. Throughout the 1980s, Morton's career kept climbing. He moved to NWA Tri-State in 1981, where he teamed up with Eddie Gilbert and won the NWA Tri-State Tag Team Championship twice. But it was in 1984 when things really started to heat up. Morton and Gibson began wrestling regularly for Midsouth Wrestling, which had recently become the Universal Wrestling Federation. During this time, they won the Mid-South Tag Team Championship 3 times, with the most famous of their battles being with the Midnight Express. Their matches were legendary, and it became clear that the two teams were head and shoulders above the rest. Their intense rivalry continued as they traded the titles back and forth, with the Midnight Express's manager, Jim Cornette, often playing a key role in their matches, adding an extra layer of drama to the already fiery contest. Their feud with the Midnight Express wasn't the only rivalry that defined Morton's career. In 1985, the Rock and Roll Express made the move to Jim Crockett Promotions, part of the National Wrestling Alliance. This was a game changer. The national television exposure they received through TBS helped catapult them into even bigger fame. Soon they were embroiled in another iconic feud, this time with the Russians Ivan Koloff and Nikita Koloff. This rivalry had all the makings of a classic: intense matches, high stakes, and a clash of two dominant teams. The Rock and Roll Express would go on to win the NWA World Tag Team titles from the Koloffs, but as was the case in many of their feuds, they would soon lose them in an even bigger battle with the Midnight Express. It was during this time that Jim Cornette's influence came to the forefront. In a match on February 2nd, 1986, during Superstars on the Superstation, Cornette used his tennis racket to help the Midnight Express secure a victory over the Rock and Roll Express. And it was a moment that further fueled the bitter rivalry between the two teams. By 1986, Morton's story took another twist. Ric Flair, the self-proclaimed Nature Boy and NWA champion, became involved in a personal feud with Morton. Flair, who feared that Morton's popularity with female fans was overshadowing his own, took a shot at Morton's fan base. In a memorable interview, Flair insulted Morton's fans by calling them teeny boppers in their training bras, and even handed Morton a training bra as a gift from one of Flair's girlfriends. But Morton wasn't one to back down. In a fiery response, he stomped on Flair's sunglasses, and this set off a rivalry that would come to define Morton's career. The two would have several high-profile matches, including a steel cage match at the 1986 Great American Bash. Though Morton never won the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, his battles with Flair proved that he was more than capable of holding his own with the best in the business. As part of the feud with Flair, the four Horsemen, Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and Ole Anderson, would get involved. One memorable moment occurred after a 6-man tag match where Morton pinned Flair to win. In retaliation, the Horsemen stormed the Rock and Roll Express dressing room, dragging Morton out and attacking him viciously. They rubbed his face on the concrete floor, causing a grotesque facial injury and breaking his nose in another attack. Despite the brutal punishment, Morton's popularity grew. Arn Anderson, attempting to belittle Morton, referred to him as Punky Morton, a reference to the popular 1980s TV show Punky Brewster. But in a surprising twist, this nickname backfired. Fans embraced it as a term of endearment, showing just how much they respected Morton's resilience. After this, Morton and Gibson went on to win back the NWA World Tag Team titles from the Midnight Express and would continue their feud with Arn and Ole Anderson for the rest of the year. Their rivalry culminated in a victory over the Andersons in a cage match at Starrcade on November 28, 1986, a win that marked the beginning of the end for Ole Anderson's time in the Horsemen. But Morton's battles weren't over. The Rock and Roll Express would lose the titles to Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez in December 1986, and this started yet another feud that would keep fans on the edge of their seats until June 1987. By the late 1980s, the Rock and Roll Express was still going strong. They toured Japan in 1988, competing in high-profile matches with teams like Samson Fuyuki and Toshiaki Kawada. Their second tour later that year saw them compete in the October Giant Series, where they faced off against teams like Isamu Teranishi and Masanobu Fuchi. They also made waves in the United States Wrestling Association, where they feuded with teams like Wildside and the Blackbirds, capturing the CWA Tag Team titles. In the early 1990s, the Rock and Roll Express returned to World Championship Wrestling, where they faced off with a host of new and old rivals. Unfortunately, injuries started to catch up with Robert Gibson, who suffered a knee injury. But this didn't slow Morton down at all. He quickly teamed up with other big names like Big Josh and Junkyard Dog, and they won the WCW World Six-Man Tag Team Championship. But it wasn't all smooth sailing for the duo, as their story took another unexpected turn. In June 1991, Morton was in the spotlight at WCW's Clash of the Champions 15 when he got an invitation from Alexandra York to join her York Foundation. What happened next shocked everyone. Morton turned on his longtime partner Gibson, attacking him and leaving with York and her crew. This betrayal marked a new chapter for Morton as he rebranded himself as Richard Morton and began a feud with Gibson that took them to new heights. Morton even joined forces with other stars like Tommy Rich and Mr. Hughes. But as always, Morton wasn't afraid to take on challenges, and he later won the WCW World Six-Man Tag Team Championship with his new stable. At the Great American Bash in 1991, Morton defeated Robert Gibson in a bitter rivalry that spanned months. But the excitement didn't end there. In October 1991, Morton had a match against Flying Brian Pillman for the newly created WCW Light Heavyweight Championship, although he didn't walk away with the title. After this period, Morton's role in WCW changed. By early 1992, Morton was playing the role of a preliminary heel, teaming up with various other bad guys like Diamond Dallas Page. His last appearance on WCW TV came in July 1992, where he faced off against Barry Windham. But the story wasn't over for Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, not by a long shot. The Rock and Roll Express reunited in 1993, starting with a return to WCW. They quickly reignited their feud with the Heavenly Bodies and went on to defeat them at Super Brawl 3. This wasn't the only place the two legends were making waves. While still with WCW, they also made a big splash in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, where they continued to dominate tag team divisions. They also reignited their rivalry with the Heavenly Bodies, this time facing off against Tom Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey. The action was fast and intense, and Morton and Gibson went back and forth, making their presence felt everywhere they went. In 1993, they made a surprise appearance on the WWF's Monday Night Raw, where they defeated Barry Hardy and Dwayne Gill. They were recognized as the SMW Tag Team Champions, but their reign was cut short when they lost the titles to the Heavenly Bodies at the Survivor Series later that year. They did return for a brief stint in 1994, touring Germany on the WWF Summerfest tour, where they faced off against the Smoking Guns. However, their WWF run didn't last long, and they went on to more exciting ventures in the wrestling world. Japan also got a taste of the Rock and Roll Express. In 1993 and 1994, Morton and Gibson toured Japan, wrestling for the Wrestle Association R promotion, where they faced top competitors like Ultimo Dragon and Yuji Yasuoka. These international experiences helped keep their names relevant, even as the wrestling landscape evolved. In 1996, they returned to WCW for a short while, and even had a brief feud with the Four Horsemen, but their time there ended in October that same year. At the same time, they were involved in frontier martial arts wrestling in Japan, where they participated in a memorable six-man tag match at the 7th anniversary show, taking on characters like Boogeyman and Freddy Krueger. Morton's commitment to international wrestling didn't stop there. In 1997, he teamed with other wrestlers like Ricky Fuji in various bouts, participating in some of FMW's biggest events, including the Super Dynamism tournament. Morton's willingness to jump between promotions was a testament to his dedication to the business. As the 1990s turned into the 2000s, Morton found himself back in the US, this time with Extreme Championship Wrestling. In 1997, Morton teamed up with Tommy Rich at ECW's House Party event, where they faced the Gangstas. Morton and Rich continued their rivalry within the promotion, which saw Morton lose to Big Stevie Cool in a subsequent match. However, ECW's more hardcore environment didn't suit Morton's traditional style, so he soon moved on. In 1998, Morton and Gibson made another appearance in the World Wrestling Federation. They were part of the NWA angle, where they returned as the NWA Tag Team Champions. Unfortunately, their reign was short-lived, as they lost the titles to the Headbangers during a Raw's War episode. They participated in the infamous Tag Team Battle Royal at WrestleMania 14, but were eliminated by the Legion of Doom. Their rivalry with the New Midnight Express and Bodacious Bart and Bombastic Bob led to a showdown at Unforgiven in Your House, where the Guns and Holly took the victory. Even as they moved into the modern era, Morton and Gibson stayed busy, competing in promotions like New Japan Pro Wrestling and All Elite Wrestling. Their performance in the 2019 Jim Crockett Cup and the NWA World Tag Team Championship victory at the NWA television tapings were huge moments in the resurgence of their storied career. And that wraps up today's video. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. We'll see you next time.